It's time for the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan.
I have always been a fan of cornhole. I've been playing with these things all night. That's huge. And it involves something that was given to me in prison. I'm going to keep playing with my toys.
Eric Graham.
You're the oval nerd. Josh is Josh, and I'm the road course nerd. Squiggly bits? I'm trying to use my European lingo. Josh gave us toys, and they're real big, and you can't miss them. We're going to get deep here, guys. I love wienas.
And Josh Matthews. He was all over him like a donkey eating a waffle. Yeah, it was clean, and he wore gloves. Okay? I have pictures. I don't know. I got nothing. The RPM Podcast.
I was just about to say, those aforementioned toys are right on that end of the table. They're right there.
They're really not that big.
But they're a blast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the RPM Podcast. We're a foursome today. There you go, Josh.
And Sam Ballard Jr.
I'm Eric Brennan.
I lost my voice.
I'm on the bottom.
Oh, there you go. There's your first one, Josh.
I'm Eric Brennan alongside Eric Graham, who's back from a week off. He's sitting directly across from his fill-in man from 1 week back, Sam Ballard. And, of course, the man who puts everything together, including those intros, Josh Matthews, who heads up the Matthews Family Studios. This is our 19th installment of the RPM Podcast. We've got a lot to talk about. A little bit later on, we're going to play an interview that we had with Wall Stadium Speedway four-cylinder driver TJ Graves after what was a very scary accident last Saturday. We're also going to touch on a couple of things that happened in the global form of motorsports. We're going to begin in the NASCAR world as they just wrapped up their foray in Daytona. Before I dive too deep into that, I want to say the last time we were here, and I can't blame you, Eric, because you were not here, we talked about the John West Townley fight at Gateway, and I never mentioned that Christopher Bell won that race, so that's my fault. So before we dive in...
So what happened when I was gone? Hopefully you guys didn't do anything like stupid, like talk about announcing for a half hour or something.
You didn't watch the show.
What's so bad about that?
I wasn't on. Why am I going to watch it?
Announcing is a huge part of motorsports.
To someone
racing.
that's an announcer.
You just
No,
open the
that's not
box.
true. If you go on the South Jersey Dirt website and look at the 3-wide message vault, I think I got that right. It's like a message board, almost like the wall board. There's people who review the races at their local short tracks, and this one guy happens to mention how much he likes the announcing
But
team
they
at
also
Wall.
always talk about the officials and the track crew. Like
Yeah,
they
but the
talk about the
announcing's
whole
in there.
experience.
If it was completely irrelevant and not a point of contest, they would not bring it up. So,
I think it's easier. It's like officiating. You always notice bad officiating. You don't notice good officiating. I think you always notice bad announcing more than you notice good announcing. Like good announcing just kind of blends into the product and enhances it.
Fair enough. So I guess we're doing a good job, but people notice. That's the point. It's not like something you could just turn a blind eye to. It's not the elephant sitting in the room, but it's more
that a
like
fat
the
joke?
cat laying on the couch. No, it's just a...
They
Never
could-
mind.
they could
And then
also-
there's another kind of joke with never mind. Something with the cat.
So anyway, at Daytona this past week, on the
I'm
Cup,
back.
on the Cup side, Brad Keselowski went on to win that race. But I think the biggest talking point came from Friday night in the Xfinity Series race. It's going to be really weird playing to the camera over here. In that race, it came down to, albeit a green-white checker, they reached the overtime line, which is more than I thought they would. However, there were a couple of cars that were sideways. Nevertheless, they wrecked on the final lap of that race.
Passed.
Shocker.
So, well, actually, they passed the overtime line on the first go-around.
Right.
So they made it to the white flag. They got to the backstretch. The guy who was essentially leading at the white flag, David Reagan, was one of the cars that got turned. Anyway, NASCAR held the yellow, despite a couple of cars hitting relatively hard. And when they got through 3, through 4, into the tri-oval, I would say maybe somewhere between 500 and 1,000 yards of the finish line, the caution fell. And it happened to take place when Almirola in the number 98 and Allgaier in the number 7 were almost deadlocked. Many people were asking, why didn't they throw the yellow? Why did they throw the yellow when they did? Why didn't they let them race back to the flag? And did we really have to go through a whole bunch of video evidence in that fact to figure it all out? There's two parts to this story, gentlemen. One of which is the question I just posed. The other is the lighting system. Let's start with the first issue, the timing of the caution. Now, nobody has come out on NASCAR's side and said why the situation played out the way it did. We noticed a couple of sub-stories, like Ryan Ellis asking for medical attention because he felt a little lightheaded. That may have come after the fact. He denied that he had anything to do with that final yellow coming out on Twitter.
I don't think that could have been a part of
You're
it,
talking
even if
like
they wanted
25 seconds, and you're talking about a giant
Half a
game
lap.
of telephone happening. There's no way
exactly.
that word got
so.
there.
But Ellis was the only one who could vouch for that. And then there was an unnamed source who told a reporter, whose name I don't have, that NASCAR suddenly realized how hard some of the hits were on that back straightaway, and that's why they threw the yellow when they did. I don't know who was watching the race. I think Sam and Josh, you guys may have been watching
I
live.
Sadly.
What were your thoughts when Rick Allen said caution when they were only a blink of an eye away from the start-finish line?
All right. Personally, I got to say, they made it that far. They were so close to the finish line. It already seemed like, okay, we're going to try to let them race to the finish. And I do believe that NASCAR was trying to let them make it to the finish. Okay?
Right.
But I was like, I was kind of throwing my hands up like, all right, yeah, I know there's a wreck, and I know there were some hard hits, and we want to get safety personnel out there as soon as possible, but at the same time, they were so close, and you've already let it go so far past the wreck that just let them go to the line.
It wasn't that much further to go, Sam. I don't know if you had a similar reaction.
Well, now, am I a race official?
Yes, you
I
are
think
a
I
race
am.
official.
I think I
Isn't
am.
this his second year? Don't sell yourself short, damn
I
it.
think.
And you work multiple disciplines of officiating, too. It's more than a lot of people can say.
I'm a racing whore.
For oval racing, it's more pit related, correct?
Yeah. So anyway, I think that for the safety of the drivers, I think NASCAR did the right thing. But as a fan, I think it sucked.
Do you think that they waited too long?
I think if they were going to throw the caution, they should have threw it in 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awkwardly long time. It was just a terrible time for them to throw it. Like, throw it or don't.
I was shocked that they did, in all honesty.
I looking at it from a director's point of view, a race director, not like a movie director. So I have a few things that could happen. One, it could have just been somebody screwed up. They panicked, hit the button. 2, I could be thinking maybe a safety vehicle got in the track and that made somebody panic and hit the button. I mean, any way you look at it, I think somebody panicked and hit the button without realizing that the race was almost over. I think whoever was in control of the button in race control, they were looking at the back stretch, not looking at the front stretch. They wanted to see,
But the thing is, when they showed the replay of the wreck, and the car that got hit really hard was Jeremy Clements in the 51, because he ended up getting hit, like essentially T-bone, had a car underneath him on the backstretch. That all still seemed to happen while the cars were in 3 and 4. And the yellow still came out about 5 to 10 seconds after that impact. And it just came after a restart. So I don't think there was a flock of cars coming out of 1 and 2 when this happened. So it seems like it was an uh-oh moment,
I mean, I would agree with Eric that I think they were paying attention more to the backstretch and the front stretch, because if they did, they'd be like, oh, crap. That's
and
really
then they
close.
probably hit it and they went, oh,
Yeah.
S word. Like
Yeah.
they realized what they did after they hit it when they were really looking at the safety of the backstretch. I don't like to say official screwed up. It's possible that somebody screwed up, or they weren't looking at the whole picture and they were only looking at the backstretch.
I think if they realized how close the cars were, they wouldn't have thrown the caution.
I think the issue that we have with it is that we kind of leave a little unfulfilled because we don't know what the situation would have been. And to make matters worse, of course, what they always say in the Cup Series is that they go off the lighting system when
Only
the light
on the
is
last
triggered.
lap.
Yes,
Only
on
on
the
the
last
Otherwise,
lap.
it's a previous scoring.
It's when they it's when they measure up the video with the timing of the caution. It goes on the light. Doesn't go on the flag, man. It goes on the light, which is triggered by a switch, which is God knows where.
Which took a ridiculously long time to do.
Right. But with the type of system they were using at Daytona, and Josh, we were kind of talking about the technical aspect of this off air, they have the solid green, then it goes to a neutral state where nothing's illuminated, and then it goes yellow. And it's possible.
We should have texted Warren.
We could have. It's
He
possible
knows how the systems work.
that between that green and yellow state where there was a small neutral point, that there could have been a change of position at the front that could have changed the outcome of that race. And nobody seemed to know if the yellow counts when the green light goes off or when the yellow light goes on. And if it is so, then why is there that difference in green to yellow? And it just kind of added to the complexity and the frustration of the situation from a fan's point of view.
It should be when the yellow light goes on.
You would imagine.
But if the track's not green, then what is it? confused.
but it's not yellow. You're looking at it as not green. It's not yellow. So
Okay.
the race ends when it's yellow.
Okay.
So when the light comes on, it's yellow. Even if it's not green,
I mean,
it's still not yellow.
I get what you're saying because I understand what happened.
The wording is the race ends under yellow.
Okay.
So they're not under yellow until yellow light comes on.
They're neutral. They're feeling it.
But neutral doesn't matter.
No, but I think it's a fun
Okay.
question. If it's not quite green and it's not quite yellow, what is
Well, I'll
it?
tell you, in any other circumstances, we would not notice.
If I
but
pick-
in
Yeah.
this situation, it looks like that the lead could have actually changed hands.
This is the
between
only
green and
situation
yellow.
too. Like flag-wise, the flag count. Well, in NASCAR is different. I take that back. Pretty much everywhere else, the flag counts. With NASCAR, it happened in the K&N series where they ran an extra lap. Scoring counts. I forgot about that. NASCAR actually goes officially off scoring.
With-
We're like WKA, Wall Stadium. We go off the flags.
Right. But now, even with that in mind, and knowing how crucial of a situation this was, because when you think about Allgaier, he's fighting for a chase spot, in the Xfinity Series. Like, this race could, some way or another, affect his run for a championship. Now, that team's running well enough. He'll probably be in the Xfinity Series chase anyway. But let's just say he hits a string of bad luck towards the end of the summer, and this race was a make-or-break deal for him. Same thing with Almirola. Almirola said that was his first ever win, even though the win with the asterisk back in 07 when Hamlin was driving was credited to him. He said it didn't count, which I give him credit for. But anyway, there was huge implications in this, and there's so much gray involved, and we didn't even talk about the bump drafting rule yet. I mean, it took what was a rather exciting race to watch from the couch and turned it into a bit of a cluster,
I mean,
Yeah.
Cluster, you know what?
I think
I will get Eric Brennan to drop an F-bomb on this show at some point.
I think if I was a fan who paid tickets to go watch this race, I would have been disappointed.
And that's the thing. Now, you guys are officials. Josh, you're a driver. Me, I'm neither. So I'm going to be on the extremely positive side of this, and I'm interested to see what you guys are.
I think that's just your disposition.
Eric Brennan's going to be positive?
Well,
Shocker.
I don't know if this is positive or not, and in fact, it might be insane, and I may get nailed to some type of object because of my stance on this, but at what point
Such a Catholic.
can you stop? At what point can you kind of shelf safety a little in exchange for the entertainment? Because I feel like we've neutered the entertainment for all the safety implications that we've gotten to up to this point.
Oh, boy.
Are
This
you
is
saying?
this is positive?
Yeah. What is
No,
this?
no, no. Well,
As an official, I'm
it's-
going to say never.
No,
Safe
because
race
I'm the
cars
fan,
suck.
so my first priority is the product. I want to see a good race, and of course I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But I think that with the locking bumper rule, with the yellow line rule, with the not racing back to the caution to the yellow rule, which I get until you get to halfway through on the last lap, at some point we're going to realize that we've kind of neutered a lot of this product in exchange for what may be not an overreaction, but an overabundance of safety concerns. I don't understand why they couldn't get back to the stripe. I don't even understand why they couldn't roll a safety truck on the back straightaway. Now, it would have to be a perfectly orchestrated effort in order to do it the right way, but I don't understand why it's not possible.
I agree that the spotters could say, all right, you got safety vehicles on the backstretch, back it down, which, they're finishing.
Well, that's
the
on the
race anyway.
spot. I'd almost guarantee you there was cursing in the tower or they doing a trailer, in the race control trailer, when that yellow went off.
Yeah.
And whoever hit that button.
Well, because it's almost a
But
given now.
NASCAR, that's the real issue. Or NASCAR just doesn't discuss what their decisions
And
are.
I don't want to abandon safety it's not that I want to abandon safety. It's just that I think we've
I
gone
don't-
too far.
I don't think you're saying it the right way of what
Yeah.
you're trying
I'm
to
probably
get at.
not, but we've
I know
gone
what you're
too
getting
far.
at. I just-
it's a little too much. All right, I understand not have here when they announced the new green white checker rule. I was like, okay, it's only going to matter at Daytona and Talladega because those are the tracks where you have a better chance of them not having a green flag finish under this format. So with that, I would rather them restart the car single file than have them double wide and try to give it a crapshoot if they're going to make it 2 laps. So, I mean, I feel like there's other avenues to go to try to assure a
He's
good
been hanging out at
finish.
short tracks a lot, talking about single file restarts.
No. It's just
20 laps, 20 minutes.
All right, Sprint Cup drivers, you're turned into a sportsman race.
But
We're
they would
going
still,
single file.
but they would still find a way to wreck. I mean, the odds are they would still find a way to get it done. But if you're a fan and you're going there and it was an exciting race throughout,
Yeah.
but you leave there feeling robbed. I mean, I didn't even have a ticket, and I turned the TV off feeling robbed, and I don't know why, and
I'll
I don't
give
know
you
how to
that.
fix it.
I'll give you that.
And I don't think NASCAR knows how to fix it either. That's why they're being kind of quiet.
That's the thing. So now, is it
they're
enough of a
really
priority?
the only racing organization that does that.
But now, if
Formula
you're,
One will talk about why they did what they did. IndyCar will talk about why they did what they did. I mean, I don't know if it helps them or hurts them, but they do not discuss their decisions.
But now, if you're an uneducated fan like me, and you're trying to explain what you're looking for out of plate races, which is not cars going up into the catch fence, not drivers getting hurt, I just want the entertainment and the wow to be back, because now I feel like the way that everything's set up, you're guaranteed to have a yellow flag finish. They didn't do it Saturday night in the Cup race, which I don't know how.
In reality, should you really just get rid of overtime at those tracks? Because I think people,
People want the overtime.
No, the racers know that. Hey, if I spin this guy right here, I'm gonna get another shot.
Well, I guess you could say that. And in theory, I may have misspoke. On Saturday, Kurt Busch got spun coming off turn 4, and they didn't throw the yellow. Now, he was out of harm's way.
But he was coming back up on the racetrack.
But I think by the time he got there, most of the cars may have been.
Do you make it where you guarantee there's a green flag finish?
Or maybe you could do like ARCA does.
Then you'll have cars running out of gas.
You give them one lap.
Then you fix one problem and create 5 others.
That's why it's tough. But, I mean, it seems like, especially in the Xfinity Series, and for the life of me, I don't understand the no locking bumper rule, because they don't enforce it. And when they do, they just make examples out of people. And it's just, I'm telling you, unless you have a camera on the front and back bumper of every car, you're not going to be able to enforce that rule.
But I think most of them do have cameras on the front and back of
There's
the car.
no way you got all 40 cars that are equipped with cameras on the front and rear bumper. Logano was one of the prime examples, and he happened to have one, as did Austin Dillon. And I'll tell you, I give NBC credit because they're the ones who equipped the cars with the cameras. There were times that Logano looked like that he was dead locked on somebody for 2 laps.
Well, he can't see him, so.
And when they cut on to the replay of the car, you could see he was bump, but it didn't look like it from the outside. But I don't know how you enforce that. And if you're going to outlaw it when guys do lock bumpers, then you got to call the penalty. But the problem with that is you penalize the pusher and the guy getting pushed, which is totally unfair. So you should just do what you did on the Cup side and just.
But if you don't penalize the guy getting pushed, and all of a sudden.
Are you laughing because I'm ranting right now? That rule gets me so
I know,
pissed.
but okay. So you don't penalize the guy getting pushed, okay? So all of a sudden, you got somebody trying to get into the chase for an Xfinity Series, being pushed by a Sprint Cup driver, and then on the last lap, and they go, "Oh well, I got penalized, but it doesn't matter. I got my teammate in."
No, I get it. It's hard, but the rule shouldn't exist anyway.
That's the point.
Because, I mean, why was the rule created? If you go back and you search why the rule was created, I'm hot. If you go back and you try to look up why that rule was created, it's because owners said that they were upset they were tearing up too many race cars. Did they watch the race on Saturday? Did they see Talladega? How many cars did they tear up then? It happens no matter what. Just make an engineered change to try to get the cars where they won't lock bumpers like they did on the Cup side, and then you'll be okay. You don't have to have a ball and strike rule in place that they're not going to call.
This is turning me on.
It's just frustrating.
I'm not actually even listening to him. I'm not listening to the words. I'm just listening to his voice just get angrier and angrier, and it's.
I'm an angry white person. That's what I keep hearing.
It's getting hot in here, man.
I can put the air on.
Listen,
I
it's
think
passion. It's. I don't want to see my sport lose one of the most exciting assets that it has, which is plate racing. And whether you love it or you hate it, it's something that you really can't even leave to go to the fridge.
It's entertaining.
How do you fix this?
Well, for the Xfinity
Go-kart
Series,
motors.
Get rid of the bump rule.
Yeah, that has to go. And
but you got to make the cars
line up.
You got to make the cars where they shouldn't want to bump.
Yeah, back when they first had the engineering of bump
because that
drafting,
2x2 driving sucks.
And
I hate that.
The tan.
I'll go off about that.
But that's the laws of physics bringing the sport there. So now they have to try to.
But you
step
can
back a little
change
bit.
the packages to make that not work.
But it's racing.
They did that with changing the air intakes to making them overheat faster. They said no.
They fixed it in Sprint Cup. They just haven't fixed it.
The drivers find loopholes, and that's the problem.
Well, yeah, and they're going to keep trying to, and that's their job almost. But you can do different things, and I think a big part
absolutely
is make sure it doesn't line up
to try to circumvent the rules. That's part of officiating. Is
finding them.
You need the
But
bumpers
if you
to-
over officiate, you make it a crappy show,
Yeah.
which is what Eric's getting at.
And if you under officiate, you make it a crappy show because
Right.
there's probably some examples. I mean, we heard
If
Austin
it was
Dillon.
easy, everybody would do it.
Austin Dillon spotter was calling out Logano on multiple times. Now, again, I didn't see the video for every instance. The one that I did see, he wasn't locked on him, but I'm sure there were times that he was. And they don't have like a lineal measurement of how long you could lock onto somebody. They don't have a half lap, 3/4 of a lap, a full lap. It's such a vague rule. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
Judgment call.
You want to know what, though? I mean, this is probably the first and last time I'll compliment Joey Logano. He knows how to push the drivers around that track. And he's done it since he got in the sport. And I think that's one of the things that they called out on him during the broadcast was that he knows how to manipulate the system. And he's a cup guy, like what Eric was saying. I mean, what difference does it make if he gets penalized 3 or 4 spots? Owner championship points?
Yeah, that's really the only thing he has to lose. But it's just frustrating. It's just the whole thing is just frustrating. And I'll sum it up by Matt Weaver, who now writes columns for Racer Magazine.
Such a name drop.
And this particular tweet got my
No
attention
free rides.
Saturday night. And I quote, "Selective policing of tandem drafting and unpredictable moment of cautions leave me kind of unfulfilled." I think that summarized how I felt on Friday.
If you look at reasons why people say they don't go to the NASCAR races or don't watch it like they used to, you hear the normal stuff like ticket prices, which is bull crap. If you put on a good show, you could charge $500 a ticket and they'd fill the place.
Exactly.
But hotel prices, that's always been happening. But one thing that you hear mumbled in there is, like rule interpretation because the fans don't know what's going on.
And it used to be...
It's not easily digestible.
And I just don't understand if we're in an era now in society where we literally overanalyze everything, that it has to be black and white. But I just feel like if you go back 10 years or 5 years, it wasn't this complicated. Because a lot of these rules didn't exist.
Stuff like this happens because the teams complain. Most rules are made because the teams complain. Tony Stewart complains about lug nuts, and then all of a sudden now they check lug nuts 55 times a race.
That's true.
So I think someone complained about this along the way, and then when you ask an official to check something, they're going to check it 150%.
Yeah.
And just to make you say, hey, they want you to think twice before you say, hey, you're not doing your job. If you tell official not doing your job, we're damn well going to do our job 10 times, especially to people saying you're not doing your job.
Or if we're ruining the race.
You're getting pretty heated too now.
Well, I mean, it's easy to blame the officials. I just think it's the competitors ask for the rules. The competitors basically design what it is, and then the officials enforce it.
Speaking of blaming the officials, one of the drivers who was involved in that last lap wreck... No, you just made me think of this real quick, Eric. Darrell Wallace Jr. ended up tweeting
called
out
him-
after the race saying, I guess they got the Muppets up in the tower, and he's a little bit lighter in the wallet tonight.
But I did. Oh, $15,000, please.
A Muppet would be the nicest thing I've ever been called as an official.
Yep.
I was getting flipped off this Saturday, as a matter of fact.
That you were.
I mean, I think. Did he say that over the radio, or did he get out of
He
the car?
tweeted it.
I
It
mean,
was on Twitter.
what about America? We live in the free country, don't we?
No, don't you be.
Listen,
No,
Going
but
there.
okay, Sam. So it's a free country, yes.
Oh, I agree.
But
I think
you're working for a private company.
I think Bubba was in the wrong here.
NASCAR is free to fine you.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
you go.
So, I mean, it didn't. If they really want to
if
enforce
you're
that,
if you're racing for the United States of America, sure, you can say whatever the f you want. But you're racing for NASCAR. You're not racing
I
for
mean-
the United States,
I mean,
States of America.
stakes.
States.
Skates.
They have a rule book. They don't have the Constitution.
I mean, if anything, if they want to enforce that, I mean, they all have deep pockets. Take points away from them, especially a guy like Bubba Wallace who's fighting to get into the chase.
It's not. They don't want to Points is more of a death penalty. It's just that's a $15,000. Hey, don't do that.
I think it'd be fun to see Bubba Wallace dig himself out of the hole.
We can get new lights at our other track.
Yeah.
I mean, $15,000 even for an Xfinity Series driver is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's just a hey, just don't do that.
All right. Well,
now to wrap up the NASCAR
I don't
discussion,
agree with that. We talk about this a lot. Where I don't like how they censor their drivers.
there's no more Tony Stewarts anymore, or Rusty Wallaces getting out of the car and want to beat the crap out of each other. Besides that,
but besides the
That
fight that
doesn't
just
count.
happened a week ago.
Yeah.
Well,
That does-
obviously you see how millennials fight, so
Well, now
they basically played patty cake.
That was actually the next play that I was going to go. News came down today that John West Townley is going to be out of competition for the weekend because he's being evaluated for a possible concussion. Now, he hasn't raced since that event at Gateway, and I'm wondering if perhaps it was accident related or
It was
or
the
wrestling related.
it was the quote unquote fight. If you see when any wrestling fans when he gives the guy a DDT, he actually hits his head on the track. I saw him.
But now, even with that, could that apply additional penalty to Spencer Gallagher?
No,
that's his own stupidity.
no.
I mean, it's rather bizarre that we've seen another
Okay,
driver
you got
get
two
hurt.
officials talking. No.
All right,
He should've kept his
I
helmet on.
understand it, but now let's look at this from a broader
Who started the damn thing?
perspective. So I guess you could say Townley did.
I guess
he
it was a
jumped over
retaliatory
Gallagher's
wreck.
car.
First off, it was a retaliatory wreck.
Now, just to play devil's advocate, because I haven't seen the video yet.
Here he's gonna.
No. How do we know that Gallagher didn't instigate? I'm sorry. How do we know that Townley didn't initiate it going into the corner and that Gallagher finished it in the middle of the corner?
You could see Townley waiting for him.
But it looked like Townley hit head on.
I think if anything, Tally knows how to do. He knows how to wreck.
Sam, thank you, Sam. That's my cousin.
You have to separate it. The wreck is one incident, and the so-called fight is a separate incident. Okay?
Right.
So the fight could have been retaliatory. I mean, it obviously is. But
But, I mean,
as far as
A decision
additional
was already
fines,
made. You're not gonna go
Yeah,
additional.
no, I think it's done and over with. I don't know why we're still talking about it. Anyway,
Well, it was the most interesting thing that happened
Next.
in NASCAR for quite a while.
yeah,
No,
okay.
the Townley having a concussion is rather alarming because, I mean, this happened over 2 weeks ago, but I have seen it before. The Townley has had concussions from racing accidents in the past, so maybe the slightest bump could kind of knock the brain a little bit out of whack as opposed to if it happened to one of us.
Probably why he can't drive straight.
Oh, God.
So,
Don't
He's
give
more
him
he's more
excuses.
blunt than I am.
well,
He doesn't watch the show, and if you do, call us. Call us, John.
well,
And bring some chicken.
if we got on the subject of Townley, Kyle Busch wrecked a lot of Cup cars when he first got to the Cup level in 04.
Okay.
So I would have given Townley a pass for trying to find the limits, and he kind of did, but he still goes over them so often.
I mean, he's been in the sport since what, 07, 08? He raced
Yeah.
Roush,
yeah,
Fenway trucks, when Roush was good.
yes.
He don't mess around.
God,
Sam's
Okay.
got zingers. He's got his voice back. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
I still have a mute button though.
Don't mute Sam.
I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm just saying I have.
Wow, I see how it is.
Keep in mind, even though TJ Graves is a like spectacular first guest, we would like to someday grow to maybe have like a John West Townley or somebody from Roush Fenway Racing on the show one day. I mean, who knows?
Beggars can't be
But you
choosers,
might
I
get one of
guess.
these guys to call in just to yell at Sam, and that would be worth the price of admission.
It would.
There you go.
If
You know what?
if
Keep
you don't
going.
like what I'm saying, RPM podcast
He's
viewers,
Stephen A. Smith in this, man. He's looking right into the camera.
Yeah.
You can call me through the show.
There we go.
Okay.
Because we're using my phone. I don't want them to have
Well, with that, we'll wrap up the NASCAR coverage from this past week.
I
What
want to
about
talk
Cup?
about Formula
What about
One.
Cup? We didn't talk about Cup.
He brought it up a little bit.
Is there a lot to talk about?
It was
I mean,
kind of like a.
I have to say, on looking at all the races that happened this weekend, I mean, and there were a lot. We had the 6 hours at the Glen. We had Formula E doubleheader. We had the Formula One, and
Which one had the least amount of talking points? The Sprint Cup race.
Had more commercials than talking points.
Yeah, we could talk about how 25% of the coverage was commercials.
Yes.
I did see that, but it seemed like it wasn't that far off from what is par.
It's
for
only
Sprint Cup
19.
coverage. So it's a bit of an
It's
increase.
it's a significant increase, but
But you're talking. I'm sorry, John. You're talking. It was 1 out of every 5 minutes. Now it's 1 out of every 4 minutes. It's still way.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like how long it takes us to make this podcast. It's like 5 minutes for every 1 minute of you guys get to listen to.
My only thing is I find Sonoma was more interesting than Daytona.
And I didn't think Sonoma was that interesting. But then again, I didn't get to watch the race from start to finish. So that's probably I know the big wreck. I know the Stewart wreck. I know the finish.
he looks for
Everything in between
storylines,
didn't
and
really
it's just
matter.
it's frustrating.
Or who's announcing it?
But what's
Yeah.
the real story of the Sprint Cup race?
Keselowski winning.
Oh,
Yeah.
David Reagan was having a great run.
That's too.
slow cat.
Congratulations, Brad. You did
Cole
very
Witt got his career best finish, 11th. A lot of guys had good runs. McDowell was
What
up
about
in
Ryan
the top 10.
Sieg in the truck race
Uh,
or Xfinity race?
yeah, finishing third.
My bad.
If they didn't throw the yellow, he might have had a shot to win.
Nah.
Well, I just find it interesting that as much as I'm normally like an anti-open wheel guy,
You've been since we started the show. You've been coming around, Josh. I know you're not.
Don't pat yourself too
You're not
much.
the type of person to admit that, but you actually do notice that stuff.
The
now.
good ones
You
always
were
come
excited
back.
about Formula E. You were excited about a Formula E race, which we talked about.
I was back in Long Beach.
But I mean, you know.
And this week, anyway.
Well, it's probably one of the. We'll talk about that.
All right,
That's
we're going to go
break.
into that in a minute, but
We're going
but
to
I have
take a
to
break.
Say, wait, hang
and
on,
then
wait,
in real
I'm
time,
not done.
in real time, 2 hours we'll come back.
Yeah.
And then we'll do another segment when Eric's done looking at Facebook. Just to
Hate you guys.
put
I
you
just
in
find it
behind the
odd
scenes.
that NASCAR at one of its biggest or most spectacular tracks, what's supposed to be some of its most entertaining racing, is actually at the bottom of my list of what was exciting this weekend in racing.
And it was at Daytona, like you said.
Yeah, for it to be at Daytona and for that to be
You
at
know
the
what
bottom,
it is, though? The Daytona package hasn't really changed, where the package at all the other tracks has changed. All the other tracks are actually starting to get pretty exciting. Kentucky has it could actually be watchable.
Well, yeah, because they're running. Well, first of all, the reconfiguration at Kentucky, and they're also running the no downforce package.
Yeah, they're
Using
lowering
air quotes.
downforce even more, which means
for a
they're going to
track-
wreck a lot of cars
Oh
in
yeah,
practice.
for a track
Drivers
that's got
gonna be
fresh
winding.
pavement, it's going to be single groove and all that stuff.
And the track's relatively smooth. I mean, besides that one bump outside,
They
too.
have, yeah, they have the crazy bump.
No, it's all done. It's all new. Whole new
I
surface.
thought they said the bump was still there.
Yeah, they said the bump was still there.
I don't think so.
is it Jimmy
Kind of like an
Hoffa?
ex-girlfriend. It's
Pretty
still
sure.
there.
Sam's got singers. He's feeling better.
He does.
Guys are getting to know my cousin Sam.
Is the bump Jimmy Hoffa?
Is a track in the Meadowlands?
All right. Well, you guys keep working on your one-liners. When we come back on the other side, we're going to tackle the top of Josh's racing list. We're going to talk about Formula 1 and Formula E. In fact, one of them you may not be that interested in, but when we start talking about it, I guarantee you'll go running to YouTube to figure out what exactly happened. I'll let you all take a guess which one that is. When we come back to the RPM podcast, stay with us, please.
Got a question you want answered? Email us at racingpodcastnj@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the RPM podcast. Once again, I'm Eric Brennan alongside of Eric Graham, Sam Ballard Jr. in the house, and of course Josh Matthew on the boards. Matthew, I dropped the S in your
Oh,
name.
no.
Woo!
Yeah, I faked my own death.
You know, it's funny you bring that up. I was reading the New York Post today, and there's a guy, I don't know where, but apparently he owes a bunch of friends a lot of money, and as punishment, they're tying this guy's name to like every national or international disaster that he's dead. And they just keep like tweeting news agencies saying, "Oh my God, could you find my friend so and so?" And that's the payback, is to try to slander this guy's name that he died in 1,000 different terrible ways. And the guy somehow like answered back on some website saying, "Oh, these guys are just doing it because I owe them $1,000." I don't know why he just doesn't give them the money. So that's your national news story. For
I
the
got
day.
nothing on that.
Look it up. It was in the New York Post today.
It sounds like fun,
I
but
believe you.
Well, something that was in the New York Post on Monday, which it was the results of the Formula One race, the Austrian Grand Prix. And in fact, it was probably one of the most exciting races of the year from start to finish, but it's the last lap that's got everybody talking.
Which is weird because there's a lot of times Austria's kind of bland.
It was surprising, because that's usually one of those races where you say, if I get up, I'll watch it. If I don't, then I won't.
I thought it was pretty
I
good.
always
I was
watch
surprised with how good of a race it was.
Well, if you didn't see the last lap of the race, it turns out
Oh,
that...
we're just going to jump right to it?
Of course.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the start. Or
Oh, we could do a full race summary. Yeah. Okay, so let's
quick,
get the last
quick
lap.
full race. Yeah, forget it.
Well, the last lap is the biggest talking point, because it's not the first time that we've seen this unfold, and according to the team, it may be the last time, but Lewis Hamilton was able to essentially chase down what was a struggling Nico Rosberg, which kind of fits his second half of the season description. Hamilton went to make the move. In fact, he ended up on the outside of what was a right-handed corner, and Rosberg essentially drove right into him. Mm-hmm. So it ended up with Hamilton going on to win the race. Max Verstappen and Kimi Räikkönen rounded out the podium. And for
Nico
Rosberg,
dropped back to fourth, correct?
yes, and he was then assessed a 10-second time penalty, which made no difference in the running order. So I don't understand.
I'm glad they
It's
did that.
more. That's more their way of saying you
Hey,
were
we
at
did
fault
something.
here.
Yeah.
Because then next time he does it, it could be 20 seconds or 30. You know, it's you have to address it and say, hey, you are wrong.
Now
Because he's saying his brakes failed. If I could say, I've been officiating like 8 years now. If I could say how many times someone told me their brakes failed, apparently everybody's brakes are broken.
What's amazing is we've seen
Wait,
these
wait,
two.
wait. In the first segment, you just told us that.
Oh, I didn't have brakes, but I wouldn't use. I wouldn't use that as an excuse.
Brakes.
I didn't go ramming people. I knew I didn't have brakes, so
Went ramming walls instead.
Yeah.
I did ram a wall.
You used another car as a launching ramp.
Yeah, S happens.
Now, the ironic thing is we've seen these Mercedes teammates get together on the first lap of a Grand Prix before. This is probably the first time we've seen them tangle on the last lap. And what's scary is that we're starting to hear rumblings that the team may look to impose team orders like we saw back in the day with Ferrari when it was Schumacher and Massa. That kind of puts a pit in your stomach for a little bit because I think we were
Yeah,
enjoying the
but-
fact these guys were racing
But
hard.
who does it just become? Whoever's in front at the start, then they get to keep the lead.
I guess it all
Because
depends.
there's
because
not,
they were
there's
on-
not, there's not a declared number one driver there.
because
Like you had with Schumacher and Massa.
I believe the whole lead up to this was the fact that the two cars were on differing tire strategies, which led to a little bit of a question from Rosberg as to how that happened to begin with, because it seemed like that it was Hamilton's upper hand that was getting him there. So that was a little bizarre in its own right, that they're kind of...
Hamilton was complaining that they put him on the wrong tires, but it ended up his strategist made the exact right call because he was able to catch him at the
Wait,
end.
didn't Hamilton have an issue with the left rear tire? Or am I confusing him? Somebody had an issue with the left rear.
Well,
Vettel.
tires.
Vettel, okay,
tires
yes, all right.
They installed these new curbs. They call them sausage curbs.
No, I'm not talking about
It's for
that.
show.
I'm talking about in the pits with a change.
There were many pit
They
stop
they
issues.
lost. I want to say they
But
lost.
you're
his
you're
second.
right. Yeah, he did have a pit stop issue.
Okay.
There's a lot of cars with pit stop issues,
Yeah.
and all weekend suspensions were breaking. Like normally tires blow.
Did you see the bandage that they put
Yeah,
on the
they
right
just
front
wrapped, they wrapped
suspension?
carbon fiber.
Yeah.
It's like a
and then
real
let it
quick
cure
fix.
overnight. Ooh.
It's pretty bizarre. And also, if you look at the rest of the running order, there was a lot of drivers who had really, really good races. And we'll start with Romain Grosjean for Haas F1, 7th. Carlos Sainz Jr. in the Toro Rosso ended up finishing 8th. And then this is probably the first time I've ever said this driver's name because he was a factor.
I'm very disappointed in you.
Pascal Wehrlein in the Manor.
Verline. In
Verline.
German, W's are V's. Remember that. Seriously.
Well, you're hooked on phonics
Are you working
now,
on your
kids.
No,
European
but
lingo?
Pascal Wehrlein, he's a Mercedes development driver. He's very good. He won the DTM title a couple years ago. Squiggly bits. He's one of the more talented young drivers in Formula One right now. He's stuck on Manor, so you don't see it, but you can see just how he outperforms his teammate.
Right.
I mean, Rio Horianto he's a paid for a seat driver, and he's
And that's the one
a
with
better race car driver than me, but he's not.
they're essentially waiting for the money to run
I
out
don't
for
think
Alexander
Rio-
Rossi to try to get back in.
Right. I don't think Rio Horianto is really a Formula One quality driver. I don't like saying that, but
Who do they have?
But Pascal Wehrlein, he's going to be on a big. He's not going to be with Manor next year. I don't see it happening.
Well, it was a really impressive performance, but due to the way that team and that car has been running, you don't really talk about him that often.
He's such a talented driver. Like you don't know him because you don't follow the European racing scene, but he's such a talented driver that say Rosberg or Hamilton piss off Mercedes, he could take one of those seats.
That very well may happen the way things are going.
He's that good, but he's that good of a driver.
Who pulled out of
He
testing?
got a top 10 in a Manor, so you got to respect the
Sauber.
guy.
Josh just brought up a good point. A story that broke today, Josh. It was the
I don't think he knows the story. He just said Sauber, but they can't afford to practice at Silverstone, and they haven't upgraded the car since the beginning of the year, which is like unheard of in Formula One.
Well,
Wow.
it costs a lot of money to do that.
Now, is that just an indication of some severe financial
Yeah,
problems?
there's rumors. They're not published yet, but there are rumors that they do have a financial backer coming. Whether that's going to be like how Renault bought Lotus and took them over, I don't know.
Are we going into silly season now, or?
It's Formula One. Silly seasons all year long.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
Like Corianto will probably be out of a ride soon.
Now, also involved going back to the testing though that's coming up. I think I saw an article. A 18-year-old American
Yes, for
He's gonna-
Haas.
yeah. Okay.
I wish I had his name. I'm failing right now. That story came out today, too. I know Eric's been in prison all day, like usual, so he didn't really get to see today's news.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they
I
have an
can find it
18-year-old
real
American
quick.
driver.
Formula One will continue their season this weekend at the British Grand Prix, part of what is another really beefy motorsports calendar. One motorsports organization that wrapped up their championship calendar for the 2015/16 season, sort of like an NBA stint is what they do, was Formula E.
Ferrucci.
And
Ferrucci?
they,
I don't know. It's an Italian. Sorry.
Well, Formula
I'm
E,
stepping on you,
Formula E might be the most exciting racing series in the world right now.
Which is incredible. And
Oh, wait. We're jumping to Formula E. I was
And-
trying to find the guy's name.
Well, when you find it, you can
Well, no. I care more about Formula E.
and take note of that, people.
Josh.
That
who
was
is-
by far.
Josh,
As-
Mr. Watching NASCAR, drinking beer, he likes Formula E, and it's an open wheel series.
He's as red, white, and blue as it gets, and I think the electric car manufacturer
He is the
just hasn't
exact
seeped in yet.
opposite demographic that you would think would be watching an electric car racing series.
Exactly.
Well, it puts out the best product though. So
The racing product is absolutely amazing. They had a doubleheader this weekend.
Yes, in London.
Now, the Saturday race was, I think, far superior to Sunday, and I think that was in huge.
Sunday was a cluster F.
Yeah, Sunday was.
Sunday,
I don't want to say
Sunday's
abysmal.
Sunday's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in racing.
It was weird.
But we should probably talk about Saturday a little bit.
Well, all right. The Sunday the racing was still pretty good overall. I think. I think
They
it
didn't
Prost?
show any racing on TV Sunday.
I had to watch
very
it.
Little,
Yeah. They were watching a lot of
let's
this.
talk about Saturday because Saturday
now,
was awesome.
Now Prost, he ran away with it essentially.
Yep.
But second back was a incredibly tight pack, and you had Lucas Degrassi, and you had Buemi, your top two in points, and
At one point,
incredibly
going
close.
into the weekend, at one point.
And they're trying to duke it out. Buemi was having an incredibly hard time getting around.
Well, it was Degrassi's teammate.
Yeah, who was trying to sort of block for him. But I mean, these are electric cars with DOT tires.
Well, I think that's the DOT tires is a big factor.
Yeah, I agree, and it limits what
Plus,
they
they're
can
on
do.
very short, tight tracks.
This track was
track's a little
awfully
too-
narrow.
Yeah, this track's a little. I don't like London. It's probably my least favorite Formula E track.
That's the thing. Even with the track being as poorly constructed as
They
it might
managed
be,
to put on a good
it
show
was
on
still
a horrible.
really good race.
It really.
Oh
was
yeah,
a
by
great track.
I think it was by far the best race of the weekend.
It was basically a kart track with full size cars on it.
Yeah. Now, and I think one of the key factors in both races being so well is that for the first time, the team in which essentially won the championship last year with Nelson Piquet Jr. that kind of struggled all year, they had a really good qualifying effort in both races with Oliver Turvey, but their race pace wasn't up to par with the guys like Prost at Edams as well as Buemi and Degrassi and that whole, app team. So I think once he got into race mode, it sort of shuffled the field on behind him, and it created a lot of passing opportunities. Now, Sunday was madness.
I still
Right
really
from the start.
I've been watching racing my whole life, so we'll just say over 30 years to be polite to myself. But I've never experienced anything like that.
Now, to set the scene for those of you who may not have seen it,
Which is most of our audience,
I can almost
probably.
guarantee just about every one of our listeners has not watched Formula E.
right? Well, you
Well,
should because I'm sure the race is going to be
Although
replayed.
it's
Wait,
very
Sam,
highly
did
rated.
you get a chance to check it?
I did not watch the race. I watched the highlights of it.
Well, it's a start. It's a start. I mean, these things sound just weird.
Well, it sounds like you're sitting
all
in a
you hear
dentist
is
chair.
Sounds like the RPM
it sounds
podcast.
it sounds like an extreme. It sounds like the loudest RC car you ever heard, and you actually hear all the tires squealing.
Which is pretty cool because when you hear electric, you don't think of power and speed and finesse.
Those things cruise, man.
They do. I'm just saying the stereotypical mind of mine.
Oh, I don't even think I ever brought this up. So here's a weird thing about Formula E. So it has batteries, so obviously your batteries drain. So what they do to get around that, otherwise the race would be 20 minutes long. In the middle of a race, you switch cars. You get out
That's
of your
your
car.
pit stop.
You have a pit stop at the set time, so you can safely get the driver in. It's like in a minute and 7 seconds or whatever. and then you switch cars and you get in another car. So it's just crazy.
It's kind of weird, and I know it turns a few people off to it, but
I think that's awesome.
I disagree. That's one of the reasons why I started watching it.
well, there's also
if they didn't have
mandatory
that second car, Sunday would have went a lot differently.
60-second pit stop. Like it's enough time to swap and get your. They don't want people sacrificing safety, so you have to have your belts on. So it's mandatory that no matter what you do, I don't care how fast you run and get in your other car, you have to get your belts on because you still have to wait out this clock. And you'll see them sitting in their car ready to go, watching a countdown clock. Okay, good, and then they can leave the.
Plus, it kind of takes pit mistakes out of it.
Yes.
Except when it happened when the series was new. Every now and then, they accidentally let somebody out too early.
And it does keep the field close because if they're running in close proximity as is, if you could get your driver from car A to car B within that allotted time, as Josh mentioned, then they're going to come out just as close as they were when they were on the track, which you don't ever see in any other form of open wheel racing when they come into pit. So I think that's something the series has in their favor is the fact that it keeps the competition close.
I think
even
it's the
during pit
future
stops.
of racing. I mean, I'm not saying gasoline-powered cars are going to go anywhere. Somebody needs to make a short track oval version of this.
That would be exciting.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
NASCAR needs to get on this because otherwise somebody else is going to beat them to it.
Well, it could be like the new Dash series, a smaller compact
Right.
car
I think
series.
Josh was saying they have to have a small car, but like the Dash was
It's
a perfect
the weight's
example.
going to be an issue because, you're talking about you have to haul however much weight in batteries in addition to everything else.
Battery technology is pretty good.
It's gotten a lot better. I don't think we're 100% there yet, but it's gotten better, and I think that it's actually
Formula
possibly
E
viable.
actually has a required weight for the battery. It's a set battery weight.
Well, they are looking to have. I want to say in a year or two that the cars are supposed to be able to run the entire race with one car
Right.
instead of switching
And
cars.
I don't know if that would be good.
Well, a dumb question though.
I'm curious how it'll work out. What's your?
Would it be harder for the stock cars drivers to change cars than the open wheel guys?
Well, I think in a stock car you can have a shorter race, and you can have a 20-minute race, and have two races.
On a short track, because this track was how long? I don't know if we know how long the London track was, but I mean,
I'm not sure.
Maybe a mile, maybe a little over a mile.
yeah. But let's say roughly around a mile, and we're talking about I know we're all thinking in our heads something similar to our own Wall Stadium, which is a third of a mile oval, and think about how many more laps you'd get out of that.
I think on an oval though you just make it two races instead of.
Well, I think it's also actually it would be a great idea because the incentive to not tear down the guardrail like the sportsman division because your battery will run out.
Those poor sportsmen.
I'm blood.
Now, if we get into the race itself, after the race on Saturday, where Lucas Degrassi was able to outscore Sebastian Buemi, they ended up tied for the points lead. So there was only a couple of ways this could go down.
So you
Actually,
go into
that's
the
an
last
exciting.
race.
I mean,
Right.
Actually, I misspoke. Buemi ended up winning the pole, which ended up putting them in that tie.
Right.
So, but just like Formula One, not every car scores points throughout the field.
Yep. I think
So-
it's the same point, same scoring system, with the exception of a pole gets a point, and then what you're about to get into,
Yes.
there's one other way to get a point.
Well, the
2
way it all
points, I
came
believe.
down,
2 points.
it seems like going into the race, there was a little bit of speculation as to whether or not there would be some controversy, considering the fact that Buemi won pole, his teammate Nico Prost qualified second, but right behind Buemi was Lucas Degrassi, who was trying to outrun
The
Buemi
day
in
before,
the title.
Degrassi's teammate blocked, Buemi.
Right, but apparently, if the two cars got into an accident, the series would go back, I guess, to the last race to who scored higher. So that would have gave the title to Degrassi. So there was some speculation going into the day as to whether or not there would be a little bit of intentional contact between the two. Intentional or not, it happened going into the first corner. But as Eric,
They didn't even make a lap. It
Yes.
was the first turn in the braking zone. Now, I have to say, I think Buemi did brake a little early on that.
now it's Speed Motors who took over the YouTube channel for Speed Channel, which is run by Fox. They do have highlights of the race and that opening lap incident online for you folks to be able to go and check out yourself. However, we will break it down on our own end, and I think he was a little bit conservative.
Well, he was offline too. He was holding the inside line, so he had to break a little earlier.
But nevertheless, they get together, and like you guys have mentioned, they got a second car they can go to. No way it would last the whole race because this happened on lap 1.
Now, why can't here's something else I do want to bring up that I'm a little thrown off by. Now, I know once that incident happened, and like I think the rear wing was knocked off on one, and the front nose was knocked off
Both
on
cars were
Degrassi.
beat up pretty badly.
Exactly. But now we see this in Formula One where they'll change the whole nose piece, or Indy even.
That's the same point Dario Franchitti made. Apparently the damage was, I guess they have like horns for it, and
Okay.
apparently there's too much damage there to get another wing into it.
Okay, because I've seen other instances.
That's what Franchitti said. Just change your wing while he's out in the second car, and then swap cars again.
Yeah.
But apparently there's too much damage to repair.
But even at that point, they still would have needed a lot of other cars to have problems to point their way into the results. So it still would have been tough. So perhaps the only way they could do it is the last way that you could earn points on a Formula E weekend is by setting the fastest lap. And that's a
which
2-point
made it
bonus.
really awkward.
So pretty much after lap 1 and after they got back into their reserve cars, everything from there became a time trial session.
Which
It
was
kind of
weird,
became.
but meanwhile, you have a race going on, a pretty decent race too.
And they kind of started pulling that NASCAR qualifying where they just kind of crawl around and wait for an opening, and then I'm going to go for it real quick.
And then they went back in the pits, and then they waited a little longer for more
And
rubber to get down
the
the track.
problem was after Degrassi laid down a little bit of a flyer. Now, Buemi was the fastest car all weekend long. It seemed like every time Buemi lined up to make a run, Degrassi would pull out in front of him. Maybe not directly in front of him, but in enough of a vicinity
enough
to
a
throw
way
him
to
off.
hold them up, and yeah.
Well, to make a really long story short, after a lot of cat and mouse, Buemi ended up setting the fastest lap, and thus he was crowned the championship. He had some interesting quotes for Degrassi after the race was over, saying that he lost total respect for him because he believed that the Turn 1 incident was in fact intentional. But nevertheless, he and that E-Dams team have won the second Formula E championship in the series
If it was
history.
intentional, the team wasn't in on it because the team looked horrified when it happened.
Well, series could take some time off. We're anticipating the 2017 or 2016 to 17 calendar to come out because there may be another stop in the States on there. Not sure if we'll see New York, but we may see some other cool hip city.
I'd go.
Oh, I would too. It seems like a blast of a weekend.
I know we only have like a minute left here in the segment, but it's just we'll bring it up when the season's coming because the cool thing about Formula E is it kind of runs in the winter. Like Eric said, it kind of follows the NBA schedule. So it's something cool for you guys to watch in the winter, and it'll give us something to talk about in the winter too.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah,
Well-
but definitely look into Formula E. You can watch the races online. They post the races online. It's really cool. Like it sounds stupid. We're saying, hey, watch an electric car race. It really is probably one of the coolest races going on.
I'm going to say this. I know a lot of people that either from the track or in my Facebook feed, I have to assume a little here that listen to the show, that follow the show, like slot cars.
Oh, yeah.
Those are electric.
They do kind of sound like slot cars.
That's a really good point.
And those things are
They actually
freaking.
sound a lot like slot cars.
And that's Formula E's. That's the organizer's next mission is a driverless series, which is essentially remote control. They won't be on a slot.
well,
but-
that's going to be their starting next season. That's going to be their feeder series.
Yep.
It's a driverless. I don't know what.
I don't know where
Who are
that's
they
gonna
going
go.
to feed? Oh, good.
It just seems like that's the
It's
start of like
weird.
the Terminator movies.
Yeah.
That's how you make Skynet.
I don't know how you move up from the driverless series to Formula E, but that'll be an interesting storyline to follow.
TJ Graves gonna do some iRacing with him.
Yes.
Right.
Speaking of TJ,
Speaking of
Graves,
TJ,
next
when
segment.
we come back on the other side, we're going to air our interview with the four-cylinder racer from Wall following his hard wreck last week. We'll also tell you what's happening at our local short track this upcoming weekend, and we'll preview the national and international racing schedules as well. When we come back to the RPM podcast, don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, this is Eric Brennan from the RPM Podcast. If you're looking for a dependable full auto repair and preventative maintenance center, then you need to check out O'Shea's Auto Repair in Wall, New Jersey. The family man himself, Tim O'Shea, has been providing the highest quality of automotive repair since 2000 on both domestic and imported cars, trucks, and SUVs. From race cars to street cars, O'Shea's Auto Repair covers it all. For more information, visit their website at o'sheasautorepair.com. O'Shea's Auto Repair, supporter of the RPM Podcast and proud sponsor of the O'Shea Auto Repair Factory Stocks at Wall Stadium Speedway.
And then I said, "D's nuts." Oh, are we live?
We're live. Welcome back to the RPM Podcast. As you can see, we have some interesting conversations during the breaks. Sometimes we don't really talk about anything at all.
I've been playing this for the 4.5 hours we've been here.
This is a long production. In fact, it began a while ago when we got to talk to, in fact, our first interview ever on the RPM podcast. And we figured we'd pick somebody who really, I'm sure a lot of people wanted to hear from after what was a very frightening incident last Saturday. We're talking about young racer TJ Graves, who drives in a 4-cylinder at Wall Stadium Speedway. We had a chance to catch up with him a little while ago, and here is that for you now. We're here with Wall Stadium Speedway 4-cylinder driver TJ Graves, coming off what was a rather frightening accident last Saturday in what was a doubleheader for the Surfside Auto Body 4-cylinder division. TJ, first and foremost, how are you feeling, and what does that race car look like?
Well, I appreciate you asking. We're feeling a lot better. I took it easy for the last couple of days. We went into work and attempted to do a few things. Today was not a good day, though. The heat got to me, so I came home and rested for a little bit and got the call to come on here. Still pretty sore, and I have a slight concussion, so I'm really sensitive to light still, but they call me Flash at work now because I have to wear sunglasses all day.
So you got town lead?
Yeah, I guess you could say I got town lead, yeah. But I haven't had to go for any
without the horrible
testing.
wrestling moves, right?
Yeah, well, I went for some of the testing when I went to the hospital for precautionary, and I was a character in the hospital. We can get to that in a little bit. That's some funny stories.
Now, TJ, when we look at the accident itself, obviously you have your GoPro in the car with you, so you went back and looked at that. I'm curious if you've seen the video that Big Jim's Videos put up there, which we actually have. And I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it. I was rather frightening when I heard it. Josh actually has it queued up if you want to hear one more time, unless it's a jarring memory for you. And that was going to be my next question is, do you remember anything?
Oh, yes, I remember the accident 100%. You can cue it. It's no big deal. I've already listened to it a bunch of times. I remember it 100%. I can give you the full rundown if you'd like.
Sure. Because at the time when we had a chance to look at your GoPro footage, it looked like you were out cold. It was actually more scary to see that than what we were looking at from the outside of the car. So anything and anything you can remember, just pass it along to us. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what was going on inside the car.
Yeah, for my GoPro, I was out cold, but I do remember everything up until I went out. So we all started out early, I think on lap 7 or so. I got tangled up with Brian Osborne in the 15, so I had to fight my way from the back, which put me back there. We were making moves on the outside, and I was coming up to pass Fred in the 21. We ran side by side for 4 or 5 laps, didn't even touch each other. And I was stalling trying to study him the last couple of laps, and he was starting to wash up a little bit, so I gave him a little bit of room. And the last time I gave him plenty of room, and he just hit me in the right spot, and we both went into the wall. I hit the wall. I remember hitting the wall, and I flew in the air, and when I landed back on the ground, I think is when I was out, because I don't remember stopping at all. Apparently I stopped, but the car stopped by itself, so I don't remember stopping. And then the safety crew, the Walls Track safety crew, was there in like 2 seconds, and they started yelling my name, and we woke back up, and then as they were talking to me for a little bit, I went back out again, and then next thing I know, I saw the jaws of life coming out, and I said, this is enough to scare me and scare everyone else. I think I could just climb out. I'm a little sore, but I'll get out.
Well, we were trying to. I'm the assistant race director there, so I have the announcers right next to me, and they're saying, "Is he okay? Is he okay?" And I'm torn between trying. I don't want to distract the track crew, and I saw them jump into the car, and I know that's when it's kind of serious. So that's when I got scared. I don't normally get scared at stuff like this. I've been in hard wrecks, and then they said they're extricating you, and I went, "Oh." You know what? I'll curse. I went, oh shit. You know, it was a time. I think we can say that in this situation. And I didn't even want to tell Earl and Eric next to me, who were announcing the race. I didn't even want to tell those guys what was going on yet. I was like, they're looking at him. Just hold on a minute, guys. And then finally they said you woke up, and then we was like, oh, you know, it was.
Yeah, really... I woke up. I was half awake when they were talking to me, and they realized that I was an LOC and a possible back pain and shoulder pain. LOC is loss of consciousness. So they called to get me out of the car. They were going to extricate me. So Richie Marr held my neck, and to my left, I went back and looked at my GoPro to figure out everyone's name. I believe Warren Alston was to my left, he was talking to me through the window, and then I had Kyle to my right, who was seeing if I was even alert. And then when Kyle was talking to me, I went back out. So that's what urged them to get me out of the car faster by cutting me out.
Luckily, our state of New Jersey has crazy safety regulations, because that could have been a lot worse. You hit it at that perfect 45-degree angle that, has really seriously injured a lot of drivers. So luckily, you're here able to talk to us this early in the week.
Yeah, no, I'm glad for that. And another thing that I saw too was I don't know how I didn't break anything in my body. I held on to the steering wheel the whole time. I don't know how I don't have a broken wrist or anything like that. But I'm thankful for that as well.
Yeah, Fred actually banged up his wrist pretty good. He was too worried about you though. So, it was a rough situation. It's just really glad that everybody's okay. So, I don't know, do we want to talk about some happier stuff now?
Well, we're talking
That's up to you. I'm just going off your protocol.
Yeah.
Whatever you got.
Well, we're talking to TJ Graves, driver of a four-cylinder that was involved in an accident at Wall Stadium Speedway this past Sunday. For those of our national viewers, if you want to check it out, the video is up there, as well as TJ's GoPro. That is out there as well.
I'll put it up on our Facebook page. Yeah.
TJ, you mentioned you and Fred getting together. We actually saw Fred in the parking lot afterwards, and he was pretty shaken up, not for himself, but for you. I'm curious if you two have had a chance to talk yet, and if so, if there's any hard feelings going forward.
Oh, no, we don't have any hard feelings at all. Some people are saying that's a retaliation wreck from Turkey Derby when I split the middle of him and Darren Burge. But no hard feelings. I did get a chance to talk to him for a couple minutes. Unfortunately, he was at work and I was at work, so we had to split our ways after about a 5-minute
You guys
conversation.
perfectly, there's no way that was intended. You guys perfectly touched tires in a fashion that will do that to any kind of vehicle anywhere. I've seen that kind of wreck a million times. Unfortunately, it was just in a horrible spot for you. There's no way you could do that intentionally.
I agree.
Now, TJ,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
when we were talking on Monday, you told me that the doctor actually told you something rather interesting, and it involved the way that you got into the sport as a whole. He told you that you would not be able to play iRacing, and if you were, it would be at your own discretion. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, that was an ER doctor. I have to thank him because he worked on my father when he was in the ER. He said at my own discretion I can do my simulated racing. He said, number one, that it's going to actually make your concussion worse because of all the bright graphics and everything I run with my monitor and how big it is. And also the amount of pain I'm going to have by arm movement and other things you do besides daily driving, because I get really into it. When I do iRacing, I have my clipboard full of notes, and I got my setup sheets and everything like that. He said at my own discretion, so I'm just going to do what he says, take a week off iRacing. It's been pretty hard because I have nothing to do except go to work and come home.
TJ, I want you to know how immature we are. You said arm movement, and we all made dirty jokes to ourselves, so you'll see it on YouTube. That's why you let you know how you're being all serious and we're being immature jerks.
I gotta come over to TJ's house. He seems like he has a setup for iRacing.
Well, he's like really into it. Actually, I'll segue off that a little. So, I mean, you've been iRacing a long time. What similarities have you noticed between iRacing and like real racing? Not to say iRacing isn't real, but you know what I mean.
The first similarity is I can't push the reset button to get a fresh car. That car is sitting at the boneyard at work. I'm pretty sure that car is history, so I can't get a fresh car free of charge. And the next thing would be how the car handles. A lot of people say that the cars don't handle the same on iRacing, but I've come to figure out they do, at least with the front-wheel drive cars. Now, when I get into faster-type cars and other divisions, they'll probably be the opposite. But at least with this division, a lot of the setup adjustments that I do, that we're allowed at least, transfer over to what I do in iRacing.
I mean, I know a lot of the professionals do it, so it definitely helps. One thing I noticed is that a big part of like real-life racing is your butt. Because that's a lot of how you feel the car, and you don't get that in iRacing. I think TJ will know what I mean.
Actually, you do. I'd have to disagree with you.
Really? Is there like some kind of like butt accessory? Because I'd actually be interested in that.
Yes, you buy something that's called a butt kicker. It's basically a vibrating machine that you plug into your computer.
More dirty jokes.
It's not a dirty joke. I'm going to explain it to you if you guys shut up and listen.
See, this is why TJ's our first guest.
So So what you do is you got a USB that goes, or first of all, you got a mount, like a GoPro mount and a butt kicker, which is a big vibrating box with a bunch of batteries in it. You put that under your seat, and you got a USB cord that goes into your computer, and you pull up some kind of software, which it's like SimPro X and everything like that. And what it does is, while you're on the track, it transfers the data of where the bumps are, and if you hit another car, it will violently vibrate and shake you. It's pretty intense. You guys would have to try it one day.
There's all different brands, too. I just Googled it.
Yeah, you got a bunch of different brands, and they're all different prices, too, because you got a medium. They have them by rating. Like when you buy
and iRacing actually like supports the butt kicker seems to be the generic name for it, but iRacing supports it, so like they actually give you like a force feedback in your butt.
Correct. Yes, it does. It actually wakes you up if you're falling asleep.
It's a new kind of alarm clock.
I'll tell you, I had no idea. I had no idea that existed. And
I didn't either. That would actually make me want to do iRacing more, knowing about that. Because
I
that's something
find a way to get my mobile operation on wheels so everyone can just experience what it is, but I don't have that type of...
I would love to try that.
You really,
I don't have that type of funding at the moment.
Like Josh knows exactly what I mean. A lot of your sensory
you have to become
through the car is in your butt.
You have to become part of the car.
That's how you feel the car.
Yeah.
You feel by your tailbone, and then you can feel by when you get into the corner with your pedals. Like if you go, I'm not going to take up much of our time here because no one's going to know what I'm talking about except if you race. But you go into the corner, you see how the car feels. You usually have a proportioning valve. You can change your brakes and all that stuff. But in our class, I'll throw a couple secrets out there. You ride the brake for a second, and then you're off of it, or you're off of it completely. I barely use the brake when I drive my car, but I like to have a stiff pedal at all times in case of sudden circumstances and things like that. But that's how I drive my car handling-wise, and then it's you kick the rear end of it out anyway. It's front-wheel drive, so you're already used to getting loose, so I have that feeling accustomed already.
Yeah, my Legend car didn't really have brakes. We could never really figure out what was wrong with it. So
you glazed them on the first lap. So
you were the
I was hardly ever on the pedal, and I learned to just not use the brake pedal.
I think it was driver.
TJ, one other thing that I've noticed you utilize iRacing for is it kind of prepared you for driving the big league car, or at least on a realistic 1/3 of a mile oval such as Wall. The press releases and all the information that you're able to compile, has that helped you? Has it helped you gain additional funding for your race car? And is it something that you hope to utilize going forward in your racing career?
Yes, it does. That's why I took up any chance I get for putting all my press releases out and my long paragraphs and whatever I do. They always seem to help me. One of my first sponsors I've ever got was from iRacing, and it transferred to the real car, which was Double Clutch. And he taught me how to type press releases and do various things, and a lot of things that I can't say on the air at the moment. But it allows me to make a little extra cash as well. Plus, he gives me some big checks, so I always appreciate it.
That's cool. So awesome. Going back to the you're a newer racer to the real life scene anyway. I know you've been iRacing a long time. What's some challenges you've had to overcome?
Oh, the first challenge was to learn how to drive a stick. Because when I first started, I had an automatic. And silly me, I was in the hype mode to buy a car to turn into a race car. And in case none of you noticed, the first race car I brought to the track was I built at school. And I know I went back and watched one of the tapes earlier in the week. Eric actually mentioned it after I won a heat race that I started my career by a car that I built with a bunch of classmates at my vocational school.
We need to get him a heat race winner T-shirt.
Oh, we will.
We're working on that, TJ.
I could design anything.
You and I are the only ones in this conversation that are heat race winners.
You guys should talk about the hospital because it was hilarious. They thought I was they gave me clothes because they thought I was crazy because that's all they had at the time. They gave me clothes for the suicidal people because that's all they had left.
A straitjacket?
No, but they gave you paper scrubs because I was in my fire suit and I was sweating my ass off.
They're afraid you're going to hang yourself or something?
And he said, no, that's just what we have. And then one of the nurses came and said, why are you wearing clothes for the suicidal? I said, I'm suicidal.
Oh, they probably thought they thought you drove the car into the wall intentionally?
Yeah, they must have thought that. I don't know.
I told this story in episode 4. I actually went to the hospital for a kart racing flip. And I'm trying to explain to the x-ray technicians that I flipped a kart. And they thought I was doing the movie Jackass, where I was in a shopping cart and they were pushing me down a hill. And I'm trying to explain, no, this is a racing cart. They go 100 miles per hour, and I flipped and dislocated my shoulder and my rib, and they just couldn't comprehend. They kept saying shopping cart, shopping cart.
They wouldn't comprehend the story I was giving of how I hit the wall, because I was saying, like, the car on the inside, he was losing momentum and front grip, and he tapped me and put me at a 45 to the wall, and I said, coming off a turn 4 the prior lap, I was starting to get a little free in the car. They had no idea what I was talking about, so it took me 12 tries.
I gave up eventually. I was like, yes, a shopping cart. I was in a shopping my large behind was in a shopping cart. Do you have any advice for like new racers that want to start racing? We have about 250 listeners, and quite a few of them don't race, but you can see there's a lot of interest there. So if you have any advice for someone that wants to start racing?
Make sure you got a pretty big wallet, as you can clearly see. If you have a bad wreck, you're kind of done. At least in this division, if you wreck pretty good, it's not like a modified where you can reclip a car. The car is pretty much junk, but I could put a front clip on this car and go back out with it, but it's not really worth my time. But the first thing would be is to get some support by either your parents or some close friends or anybody that wants to help work on the car, because these things are a handful. It's a good, at least if you work from 8 to 5 like I do, you're there at the shop till about 11, 12 o'clock every night, at least 3 nights a week working on them.
Yeah. It's good that you said that, because we explain on the show a lot that having a race car is another full-time job. People think you just show up at the track on Saturday and, go out and play. And it really, I mean, you're putting hours of work in for every minute that you're on the track. Like, people don't understand that.
Yeah, no one understands that part. They just think you show up with no tire, no spare parts or anything, and you go out and have some fun. If you wreck, you're pretty much done for the night. You got to show up with some spares and everything like that. I see it all the time in the pits in this division. People come there without a spare tire, not even any tools. They just say, "Oh, well, the car ain't gonna work today. We'll just say we had a good day and we leave." I can't see how you do that.
Yeah, it's true. Do you have any sponsors you want to thank?
I do. I really don't want to read out of this big book here, but I'm going to have to, because they always support me, so just bear with me here.
Let it out, TJ.
All right, well, first and foremost, we have Central Jersey RV on the hood of my race car. Certified Collision for sponsoring the division. The Contingency Awards from Mike's Performance. Express Signs and Decals out of Lancaster/Holland, New York. Short Track Racing Network, Double Clutch, Joe's Garage, First Horizon Realty for letting me use the trailer all year, and that's about it. And Attilio's Pizza. He's a newcoming sponsor of mine, but hasn't made it to the car yet.
Holy crap. The NASCAR drivers have less sponsors than that.
I prepare my speeches very, very often. So.
Go ahead, Eric.
TJ,
if we really needed to, I got my stat book in front of me, all my finishes here, all my finishes last year. I'm all prepared. Don't worry.
Now, TJ, with all that funding behind you, after this accident, where do we see the rest of your season playing out? Obviously, the priority is to get healthy, but prior to that, you said the car may be a total loss. You've driven somebody else's car and won already, but do we know where your future lies in terms of your season and even your short track racing career?
I'll be back for sure. It's just a matter of whenever we get medically cleared and all that stuff.
Good to hear.
And I have a car. I don't know what the plan is at this time. I don't have one, but I will be supporting my local racetrack in the stands and in the pits for a little while.
Hey, man. If you're not at if you're not running a car, if you want to come out in the tower and hang out with me and Eric, see some behind the scenes stuff, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I might be down for that. But as far as my racing career, I will be back at some point. Just a matter of if I get another car or fix this one. This one really ain't that fixable in my opinion. I have to find another one and then cut it and put a whole front clip on it. But if you do that, you might as well just buy one and build another one.
Yeah, it's just been that kind of year, it seems like. We've
had 3 weeks of racing, 3 horrible car-destroying wrecks.
And we've seen ones where people said they don't know if or when they're coming back. So, TJ, once we found out you were okay, that was our next concern. And it's good to hear that there may be something in the works for you to come back. It's good. It's good stuff.
Did Josh or Sam... Oh, go ahead, TJ. I'm sorry.
Plus, it's good that this car is wrecked, because this car struggled me all year. It came out... I skipped opening night because I went to Richmond and I had motor problems in practice. We ended up losing that motor. And then I came back on the 30th. We had a terrible heat race. It was strong for the first 3 laps. I was actually getting ready to take the lead on Mike Lavery, and big poof of smoke came out of it. It was running rich and all kinds of sensor issues. But we ended up trying to start the feature at least. I made 2 laps and pulled in just like any other regular short track racer would so he can get his payout. And then we came back on 6-4 with Al's car. I got offered to drive that. Went out and won, got my career first win, and also my first heat win of 2016. And from
Another
there on
T-shirt.
Yep. He gets another
from
T-shirt.
there on out, 625 and 7-2. We both had heat race wins. At least one in the number 9 car. The other one was in the X3 again. And we had a second place finish, a 9th place finish, and a 3rd place finish. So the trend's slowly going down, but it's not that consistent as where I need it to be. But it's going to be pretty inconsistent because I'm going to be missing a lot of races now. But all that allows me to do is when I get a car back together, if I get one, I can travel around a little bit and just come race for wins at Wall. The rules in these things don't really allow you to go anywhere. So.
Well, I mean, if I was in your situation, I'd work on getting the car right for the Turkey Derby.
Yeah, well, we're looking at that, but we want to be back before then.
I mean, get back before then, but just at that point, if you miss some races, focus on winning the big one.
Yeah, that's true. And I came close last year, and then I had all kinds of hype and everything. Everyone thought I was crazy and making that move I did, but that was the move I stuck with. I stick with my opinion. We don't need to go into detail on that, but that was the last race with the automatic too, so I wanted to make it a good one and a good showing because I've almost won with the automatic quite a few times. It just them restarts were horrible, and I knew I had to capitalize. So some of my experience in iRacing helped me out on that.
Well, TJ, you really provided a good platform for people who really may not have the funding right now to go out and get a real-life race car to go play with, and that iRacing may serve as a really healthy step. And I'll tell you, TJ, from this conversation, it seems like that you don't just drive the race car, you know it inside and out, and I think that's a huge step in your success this season.
Yes, it is. I try to learn. I'm pretty with the wrenches, and anybody in the pits can vouch for that. I really don't like to touch many wrenches, but I understand how a car works, and I try not to say the same thing to my dad, who's my crew chief every week, what the car is doing, because I say that usually at least 2 out of 3 practices.
Yeah, coming in and saying it sucks never gets anything fixed.
No, it doesn't. I kind of learned that after about maybe the 8th, 9th week.
Well, TJ,
but a big part of the reason why I like racing is because I like covering races, like what this kind of show is. That's the other one of my other jobs, I guess you could say I do.
I think your stat sheet or your book is better than what Brennan has right now.
Yeah, well,
That's what it sounds.
Well, TJ,
unfortunately, I'm probably 45, 50 minutes away from you. I could probably send this overnight FedEx to be there first thing about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. But
I'd probably just be getting out of here, TJ. I'd probably just be heading back to Staten Island.
But wait, how do you feel about hot dogs?
Feel about what?
Hot dogs. I'm trying to see how you compare to Eric Brennan.
I don't know. I eat them. I can't eat anything with tomatoes or tomato sauce or ketchup, so I eat just a plain hot dog. Everyone thinks I'm a freak.
Sam and I hate tomatoes.
Well, when I go to a pizza parlor, pizzeria, or an Italian place, usually you get pizza. Like when I go with some friends, they say, "Oh, Caesar, you're not getting pizza. Why are you even here?" I get a Caesar salad every time. They say, "Oh, you're eating that healthy."
Gotta get this man
I
a
always eat
T-shirt.
healthy, but,
There's really
I
nothing
can't have
healthy about
tomatoes.
Caesar salad.
I know. Yes, there. What are you talking about? There's health. There's always a lot of health factors about Caesar salad.
No, there's nothing healthy really about Caesar dressing's horrible for you. Anyway, this isn't a nutritional podcast.
Oh my God.
Dr. Oz.
It's rough to live in New Jersey and not have tomato sauce.
I know it is, but I can't eat it. It makes me very sick.
Oh, okay, you're allergic to it. I just hate tomatoes, but
No, the acid in tomatoes makes me puke and everything like that, so it's not worth my time.
well, that's interesting tidbit. Josh and Sam, do you have anything for TJ?
What does TJ stand for?
That's compelling.
I'll let all you take a guess at that first, because I've heard some wacky answers.
Tom Jones.
That's where I was going. I was going to say Thomas John, but
Thomas Jefferson.
Well, you got the first part right. It is Thomas.
Too juicy?
It's Thomas Jr.
Oh, Tom
Okay,
Jr.
there we go.
That
All
makes
right.
sense. A lot of J's are juniors.
So I'd be SJ.
You'd be SJ, yeah.
Word. Gotta get that on a T-shirt.
Oh, God.
SJ
Well,
Ballard.
since when I was recovering the other day, I was watching Jeopardy, and there was a guy named TJ on the show, and every question he answered, I knew the answer for. So I actually could have won probably $8,000-9,000 bucks, but
It's a new
I
race
couldn't.
car.
Yeah. That'd be incredible for the racing fund right there.
yeah, it would have.
All right, well, TJ,
But it doesn't matter. I'm not medically cleared to race, so it really wouldn't do me any good. But it would do my team very good because they could work on a car at least.
Yeah.
Well, TJ, we're glad you're feeling better. We hope to see you back at the racetrack soon. We want to thank you for being the first guest on the RPM podcast, even though it took us about 6 months to have one.
TJ broke our guest cherry.
That,
I
I probably educated you, too, as being your first guest.
this one's going to go down in the Hall of Fame, even if we continue
We
on
learned
for
about
the next
butt
few
shakers.
years.
What are they called?
Butt kickers.
Butt kickers, yeah.
Brennan's a butt
They're
shaker.
called butt kickers.
That actually makes me want to do iRacing more. Because that really bothered me about it. When you race a real car and then you get into iRacing and you don't have the butt shaker, because that's a major part.
Kicker. Butt kicker,
kicker.
Eric.
It's a major
But
part
you
of
can also
actual
get a
racing.
fully motion rake, but if you want to spend $10,000 on that, you might as well buy
I'll just get a couple factory stocks.
Yeah.
Well, if I win the Mega Millions on Friday, everyone will get a simulator, and you'll get a new race car.
Butt
TJ.
kickers for everyone.
That too. TJ, thank you very much for joining us again. Hopefully we see you back in action at Wall Stadium Speedway soon. Take care, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone.
Well, that was TJ Graves, four-cylinder driver at Wall Stadium Speedway. Again, so good to hear him after what was a frightening incident. I know a lot of us were holding our collective breath. Eric, you mentioned when you were talking to him. He seems upbeat, though, and it's great to hear he's going to be coming back.
Yeah, no,
His car might not.
Yeah,
unfortunately, the car looks like it's written off. But TJ is a really good guy, and he's a perfect first guest to have because he could talk like us.
He talked. I think he talked more than Brennan, which is, that's
Pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
you got to give the guest the spotlight. As much as I loved the limelight, I had to turn it over to him, considering it was about him,
you're just used to getting pushed aside. That's what it is.
typically.
He totally Gary Larson you.
Speaking of Gary Larson,
This is my podcast now.
and Earl Krause, and Jeff Gravatt. This weekend at Wall Stadium Speedway, Cone Race is the name of the game. Going to be fun for you two.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we're going to have a 50-lap for the Snap-on Tool Sportsman division on what will be Snap-on night. We'll also have a cone race for the modifieds, the factory stocks, and the four-cylinder division. There's also a mechanics race on here. Josh?
My car is not ready, but if I can get a ride, I'll put you in it.
I'm not really a mechanic, but I may want to watch other people do stuff and then compare what they did to what I
Anyone
did
that's
last year.
not a race car driver can be in the mechanics race.
The fun fact's going to be that Eric Graham's going to be the cone for the cone races.
I can see that.
Dress him up like a big old bottle of Pepto-Bismol.
Warren's already down on the track. Make him be the coach.
Well,
So that served the
sadly,
purpose.
you may never see Sam on the show again.
There was a Jimmy Hoffa reference earlier. I think we could associate that here, perhaps.
We're pretty close to the Meadowlands.
There we go. So, and then, of course, in 2 weeks' time, it'll be packed to track night at Wall Stadium Speedway, where, as of right now, I may not be there. Is it wrong
And
that I'm
that's-
hoping for a rainout?
That's gonna
Is
be
that selfish?
I think that's the first time I'll be missing Wall in 5 years.
Wait, what are the factory stocks doing this Saturday?
Just a single cone race, according to the website.
Okay, when's the triple
That's
25?
that's
got
the
time.
week
Yeah.
I'm
When
gonna
I will
be.
not
I'm gonna
be
be in
there.
That's
Indiana.
2 weeks.
Yes. The 16th.
Okay.
Eric will be at our wedding. This Eric will be at.
We're going to be Ericless. It's going
In
to be a
fact,
great night.
somebody
It's
told
going
me
to be the
National.
Josh and Sam.
somebody told me that Gary Larson may not be there either,
Josh can announce. It's okay.
So it's gonna be oral.
or Brian Hammer.
Yeah, you're going to hear. I got nothing.
Big.
And the cars go into turn 2. I got nothing.
How about those butt kickers?
Although we
I
we
didn't
can
know
do
about
the
the butt kickers. I'm still excited about that.
Well, you learned a lot by TJ.
Yeah.
TJ was a good sport. So hopefully when he heals up, somebody will have a car available for him, but it looks like he will not be in action this weekend. But there's a lot going on at Wall Stadium Speedway. Don't forget to go there. Snap-on nights, they're giving away a whole bunch of cool stuff, and it'll be fun to watch as well. And for more information, visit wallspeedwayracing.com.
Were there any other major speaking points from last Saturday?
Well,
I mean, TJ's wreck
I'll
kind of
tell
took
you,
precedence because of the injury.
the
But
cool thing was when I got to talk to Cole Ormsby the last time, he told me that he was afraid he wasn't going to get to race anymore because he got a new job on the Parkway. And, there they kind of throw you to the wolves, and you got to pay your dues, and you got to work crazy hours. Well, he ended up having just enough time to try to get a race in and then the leaders kept wrecking on him, so he ended up sitting in the car for a while. It paid off for him. He got his second win of the year. And also, guys snapped some winless streaks. Kenny Van Wickle got his first win of the year in the Sportsman. Jazz Okerson got his first win of the year in a Modified. We saw Mike Carr return to competition and win in the same car that TJ Graves won in the last time out. And also, Darren Bird snapped a long losing streak in the four-cylinder division as well. And the only thing I'm missing is Legend Cars, where the Long Island guys of Kevin Nowak and Richie Davidowitz swept the top 2 spots in the Legend Car feature. We had a lot of racing last week.
I thought it was pretty good racing.
You guys
We were done at 9:30.
Yeah, 9:30.
That's impressive considering some of the wrecks.
And that's our normal, unless something crazy happens, that's our normal thing now.
Also,
You know,
we want to echo something that TJ alluded to. Hats off to the Wall Stadium track crew and safety crew.
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys are great. I know a lot of you guys listen to the show. Really, though, we really do have one of the best short track crews.
Not to get too much into this, and I'm sorry we didn't get to it when we had a chance to talk to TJ, but when we were kind of mingling, we got to watch the end of the Cup race with Cliff and some of the track crew, and then we went out into the parking lot for a little while to just kind of hang out and digest the night. And it was funny hearing the track crew and some of their versions of, what ended up happening. And, of course, they didn't get into anything too detailed that would violate HIPAA laws, but they were telling us how they knew TJ's personality and they knew how he would react to certain situations and that they wanted to make him feel as comfortable as possible. You usually only hear about that for a traveling medical team with a series. It's crazy that our guys at Wall take the initiative to learn the personality of the drivers they're dealing with.
But our guys train guys at other tracks.
Yes,
So it's
exactly.
like we really have something special at Wall. And I'm not just tooting, our own horn, because we are great, but
Usually I'm the only one who says that.
But the track crew, they really are something special. I mean, New Jersey has the strictest safety laws, so they have to be special. So I mean, it's easy to
They
say,
hit a home run on it.
but they do that all the time.
Exactly. That's what's amazing.
It just so happened to be right in front of the whole crowd, so they watched them. Normally they're somewhere off in a corner, so you don't get the best view of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're right front and center, so everybody got to see how good they are.
Well, again, we're glad TJ's getting better. Now we'll turn our attention to the national scale, where the top 3 NASCAR series are at the newly repaved and revamped and re-renovated, if that's even a word, Kentucky Speedway, where the trucks are practicing today. They'll be racing tomorrow, Xfinity Friday, and the Cup Series Saturday night, all, of course, weather permitting.
We forgot to talk about the 6 hours at the Glen this
We
past
did,
weekend.
because IMSA is going to be up in Canada.
And Global Rally Cross, we ran out of time.
Yeah.
I want to say that 6 hours at the
GRCs.
Glen was it was action packed. I mean, I'm not as familiar with all the drivers and et cetera, but every time that I was looking, I was doing some housework at the same time, so I had it on, and there was just constant action. There was always a pack of cars doing something. I mean, it was great to watch and great entertainment.
I know you don't watch IMSA too often, but races are commonly that. Like
Yeah.
the 24 hours Daytona is an amazing 24
Oh, I
hour
love
event.
that race
Oh, yeah,
too.
it's
Yeah,
great.
It's IMSA.
is that still Continental Tire?
Well, that's 2 different series. They're both under the IMSA banner.
Okay.
Well, I just think it's going to show, hopefully, what NASCAR going to Watkins Glen in, a few weeks?
Yeah, and IndyCar.
Yeah, so hopefully the track
The
works
NASCAR
out.
always seems to have one wild, scary moment at the Glen.
They've had a lot of
It's
bad
a
wrecks.
fast track with a lot of dangerous spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the win in prototype went to Juan Barbosa and Christian Fittipaldi in the 6 hours of the Glen. I knew Barbosa was driving at the finish. I just had a brain fart as to who the co-driver was. And Eric, you mentioned Rallycross. I was talking to Staten Island Jim about this on Monday, and man, you want to talk about they're starting to get on IndyCar's level of shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, it's pretty bad. They ran in a monsoon on Saturday. They returned to run on Sunday, and then they refused to run in what is a damp, it was pretty soaked track.
That was past damp.
But still, how is it much different than
You know,
what
like
they were going to run on Saturday?
on like CNN when towns flood. That's what it looked like. That kind of footage.
But
Like,
how
you couldn't
is
race
it
in
much
that.
different than
You couldn't.
They could have made an adjustment,
There was
though.
feet of standing water on Sunday.
They could have figured something out.
They tried. You saw them with the heavy equipment. They couldn't do it.
It's abysmal. To cancel anything. IndyCar's coming back in a month
If
and a
you
half
wanna-
to finish a race in Texas. So I don't know why Rallycross couldn't have figured something out for those fans.
Well, I think if it wasn't like
They got those
if
big
it wasn't
paddle
like
tires
if
and-
they weren't on a runway of an active Air Force base,
Get them paddles,
maybe.
push them
Touche.
down.
So I mean, that's the only reason why they couldn't do that Monday or whatever.
Good point. And back on the national calendar, we told you about NASCAR, IndyCar.
Thank you.
One of their one of their best races of the year. Trying to squeeze a lot into a short amount of time. Iowa, IndyCar, Sunday afternoon, daytime race. Maybe that'll add a wrinkle into what happens there on the 7/8 of a mile.
Sam and I
oval.
will be working in Englishtown.
I will be home watching their race happily. That's my thing.
Basically, we'll be working in Englishtown, and then you got to watch race Sunday night.
Yes, because we said earlier, Formula One will be at the British Grand Prix. The NHRA will be in Chicago. As Josh mentioned, the 6 hours of the Glen wrapped up for INSA. They're up in Canada. Trying to see what else I got here. Motocross will be in action as well. V8 Supercars are racing in Townsville. I haven't seen
Is anyone watching
lap.
Supercross?
I'm
sorry, motocross.
I watched the
You're
first moto last week.
But, I mean, there's, nobody left. Everybody's hurt.
Yeah, everybody's getting banged up except for Roxon.
It's been a bad year.
Roxon's the only one who's keeping
Yeah, last
healthy.
week.
I think the first 4 weeks, I mean, you lost most of them. And
Yep. Bad injuries, too.
Another one bites the dust.
Dungy,
Sam.
we have a new heartless host here. Sam,
Fits right
Sam. Dungy, cracked a vertebrae.
Yeah.
It's like-
Yeah, but they know what they're
Sealy
getting
just
into when
got
they sign
hurt.
up for that.
Well, yeah,
But it's usually not that brutal.
it's pretty. You ever see that stuff?
Yeah,
Like,
but
sometimes
usually
when
the
we
outdoor
leave-
stuff is...
When we leave Englishtown, you see it, and that's on an amateur level, and those guys are flying over
And
the
they
place.
push each other off the bikes and
Uh,
my ramp. Bitch.
That's our. Really. What do we have to talk about in the winter, though? I mean, we'll talk about indoors.
Supercross and Formula E and indoors, yeah.
We should get Warren in here for the indoors. He would love to talk about that.
Well,
And then Supercross, Formula E, and that's what else is there going on in the winter?
football.
I'll be at Daytona. I'm very excited about that.
You can find a new studio.
Well, with that, we want to thank TJ Graves again for jumping on. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm jumbling words. For jumping on with us and having a good time and being the first guest, as Eric said, he popped our guest cherry.
Yes, he did.
Sounded better when you said it, though.
Did a great job, TJ.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
buddy.
thank you, TJ.
We hope to have more people on all across, whether it be from Wall Stadium Speedway, local dirt tracks, or even on a national level, and we'll keep all that posted.
If you want to be a guest, we saw you guys at Wall, and a lot of you guys compliment the show. Don't be scared. I mean,
Don't be bashful.
We're jerks,
three
but
of the four of us
come on.
don't bite, so I mean, Eric's a freak,
Only when I get excited.
Only when
which
you
is
have
all the
wieners.
time.
Touche. On that note,
Have you
we'll
bit-
see you all
wait.
next week. No, we're
We
done.
almost
we
went through a
No
show.
more.
Have you bitten Vinny Troya yet? It's
No.
coming, Vinny. He's gonna bite you.
I haven't seen him yet.
He hasn't mentioned them all show.
He hasn't
You
mentioned them all show. I had to
Wow.
do it. I had
In
to
fact,
do it.
Wow.
he had a party on 4th of July. I was like, hey, bud, thanks for the invite. Then
Wait.
I got that traditional, yeah, I meant to give you a call, but I see where this is going.
I fear for my life.
Who
Did
could
we-
blame him?
That whole.
What's that
I would've-
dark
I would've
shadow
invited you to
outside my window?
I would have invited you to
What
my,
window?
I'll get it out eventually. I would have invited you to the party, but the whole restraining order thing.
It was a one-time thing, Eric. Stop.
You were standing at his bed when he was sleeping.
It only takes.
All right, hold on a second. We just took a joke way out of proportion. It's time to put a bow on this
It only
baby.
takes one time, Eric Brennan. One time.
But you still haven't said his name yet.
Vinny Troya.
There
On
you
behalf of Eric Brennan, Sam Ballard, Josh Matthews,
It was a cuddle with a struggle.
I'm Eric Brennan. We hope
Little
you come
spoon.
back next week. And
He was the big spoon.
we'll wrap up another huge week
Vinny
of
was the
racing action.
screaming spoon.
Maybe. Can you hit that mute button for me? Maybe we'll have a couple more guests, and maybe I'll keep getting red. You hit the wrong one. Maybe I'll keep getting red in the face while these guys make fun of me. We'll see you next time on the RPM Podcast. Have a great and safe week, everybody.